First of all, happy World Mental Health Day to you all. I am so grateful that you guys came this evening and committed your energy and your time to being here for what I believe is a very important conversation. This is also the launch of our new topical series called The Big Green Couch, where we're bringing in noisemakers, friends within the community, and people in different industries to pick their brains, learn more about them, and hopefully learn just a bit. So I have 4 incredible women here this evening. I'm gonna spend a moment introducing each of them because they deserve a moment. So I'm gonna start with Kelli. So Kelli Rugless is a licensed clinical psychologist who knows that every woman has the potential and power to be a positive force in her personal life, workplace, and community. Helping women achieve this potential is Kelli's passion. By building a safe space for vulnerability, openness, and healing, Dr. Reglas empowers her clients to cultivate compassion for themselves and others while overcoming life's challenges. She specializes in depression, anxiety, adjustment issues, the treatment of eating disorders, and negative body image. She also helps women of color navigate the unique challenges that accompany being an ethnic minority in the United States. Please welcome Kelli. Good evening, Kelli. Next to the big green couch, that looks kind of small in this big room today, is Kelsey Patel. Kelsey is one of Hollywood's leading wellness and Reiki experts. She is not only a sought-after spiritual empowerment coach, yoga teacher, Reiki healer, and meditation teacher, but also a multifaceted entrepreneur and inspirational speaker. She is the creator and founder of Magic Vibes, a soul-enhancing lifestyle brand that was named one of the top 7 subscription boxes of 2017. In 2018, she became a co-host of a podcast series, which I'm a huge fan of, Break Up With Your Bullshit. And in 2019, she launched her very own wellness meets spirituality podcast named Magic Vibes. Kelsey is in her 2nd year as a Well and Good Wellness Council member and has led workshops and retreats across the globe and given keynote speeches for organizations like Free People, Delta Airlines, The Good Fest, and beyond. Her mission is to inspire human beings and give them the tools to relate and connect to their own best self and live life in a purposeful, fun, and balanced way. Please welcome Kelsey. Everybody's wearing the cutest outfits, I just have to say that. Next, we have Tori Shack. Tori has struggled with depression and addiction since she was 14 years old. She is a 2-time attempted suicide survivor, first in her adolescence, second as an adult. Even through her struggles, Tori managed to graduate from UCSB at the top of her class with a major in history and a minor in international relations. She then became a successful entrepreneur, first in real estate and the mortgage industry, and then in the wellness industry. After college, she spent years battling a horrible eating disorder, alcoholism, addiction, depression, and gender identity issues. Sober since 2010, Tori has spent the last decade in the health and wellness, something that she says has helped give her purpose. It was through her personal road to recovery and acceptance that led her to form Tangible Movement, a nonprofit organization formed to inspire, educate, and provide tangible support for youth and young adults who are struggling with mental illness, suicide ideation, addiction, and sexual and gender identity issues. Please welcome Tori Shack. All right, what up, girl? Next, we have Katie Horwitch, who is actually one of the very first Pound Pros that ever was. Katie is a writer, a speaker, a coach, and the founder of Want, Women Against Negative Talk, a platform that gives women tips, tools, motivation, and inspiration to move forward in their lives by shifting their negative self-talk patterns. Katie brings to the table over a decade of experience in the wellness, lifestyle, editorial space, and also 2 decades in public speaking and performance. She also has the WantCast, the Women Against Negative Talk podcast, where Katie helps women live the full spectrum of their lives, taking a pragmatic, proactive approach to the high, low lows, and everything in between. She's been featured on CNN, The Cut, Healthline, Insider, just to name a few. In addition to her work in the self-talk world, Katie has been teaching group fitness for over a decade and is currently a trainer at Aptive, the #1 audio fitness app, where she reaches over 1 million users per month with her unique brand of positive, proactive coaching. Katie is on a mission to shift the cultural self-talk paradigm. Her middle name is also Joy, seriously. Please welcome to the Big Green Couch, Katie Horwitch. Hi, guys. How we doing? Feeling good? How are you guys feeling? Good? So before we get started, I just want to take a moment to recognize how vital both mental and physical health care is to humans in this world, but also how both remain a luxury and something that everyone doesn't have at their fingertips. I can speak for myself. I'm a 34-year-old white woman living in Los Angeles who owns her own business, and I struggle to find the funds to go to therapy. But at the same time, therapy has been one of the more life-changing experiences of my entire life. Mental health care should be for everybody, period. So I wanted to say that before we get started, because we are so lucky to even be able to sit in this room and have this conversation and be amongst these amazing women. So thank you guys so much for being here today. Kelly, if you want to grab the mic there on the table. Okay. So, Kelly, I'd love to kick this off with you as a doctor and licensed clinical psychologist. Can you share your perspective on the state of mental health care and access in our country today?
Oh, man.
And with that, a little bit about your journey to your career, because I know it has a lot to do with that.
Sure. I wish I had something better or more positive to say about the state of mental health care in our country, but honestly, it needs an overhaul. It's got a really, really long way to go. This week is also Mental Illness Awareness Week, and so I've been looking at a lot of numbers and data about what's just been happening and what's been trending, and one of the statistics that shocked me was that in about 60% of all the counties in the United States, they do not have not one single practicing psychiatrist. 60% of all counties in the United States do not have one psychiatrist. So that number alone lets you know that there are millions of people that literally have no one and have no access to get the kind of care that they need. And so I think, unfortunately, it really, really needs an overhaul. I think we might be in sort of the best place culturally for that to happen. I think people are ready for it. The fact that we're all sitting here even talking about it is a big deal. Because when you ask me about my journey, I think my journey has a lot to do with the fact that it wasn't ever really talked about. I sort of grew up in a community where that was just not spoken of. I grew up in a warm and loving family and a warm and loving religious community, but unfortunately, the way that they had been taught was just that that's not how you handle your problems. There's this one particular way that you handle it, and that way works for everything, and if you do anything outside of that, then something's really wrong. And so it was in my own experience of seeing that people needed help, recognizing that help was out there, but that there was this big sort of invisible barrier that kept some of the closest people to me from getting the help that they need. And so it sort of pushed me to find out, well, what more, there has to be more out there. How can I help people? How can I be a part of it? And that sort of led my own journey to kind of figuring out how I could be used and how I could help others. I think no matter what I ended up doing, it would have been helping, but I ended up being at UC Santa Barbara as well. Go Gauchos. So I ended up being at UC Santa Barbara, supposed to be a physician, because my dad's a physician, so duh, that's what I'm supposed to do. Realizing that I just couldn't. It was like killing my soul to be in those classes, taking a psychology class and loving it, and then just sort of running with it from then on. And so it was just sort of the perfect mix for me of still sort of having that health focus, because even as a psychologist, I'm a trained health psychologist, so I still kept part of that. But it allowed me to be able to connect with people and help people in a really tangible way.
Thank you, Kelly. Thank you for what you do. Kelsey, you have said that in your work, you so often see people equating doing with self-worth or value. Can you expand on that and share how it speaks to your own personal life experience?
Yeah, thank you so much, by the way, for having me, for having us, for putting this together.
Thank you, guys.
This is no small feat to put this shit on, having done it myself in the past. So, like, a round of applause, I think, to you and your team, because it's really cool that you did this. And yeah, so my own life story, like I'm sure for many of you guys too, it comes from my own life experiences. And so I grew up in North Dakota. We all had the privilege of talking backstage, and it was really cool because just getting to know all of us a little bit and the background of our why, like why we're doing what we're doing. And I grew up in the Midwest in North Dakota. If any of you have heard of that state, it's part of our country. And so I grew up there, and I had my first job at age 12. Like, I was full-time babysitting in the summer at like 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. I had my first job, I know, right? It could also be considered child abuse, I'm not sure. But I got to keep the money. And then I had my first job at Subway Sandwich Shop when I was 14, when I could get a job, and I had more than one job in high school. I put myself through college on the East Coast. I had never even been to the university I went to before I showed up with suitcases. I had 4 jobs there. I just always worked. And so it wasn't until I was working in the United States Senate in Washington, D.C. on Capitol Hill, like this proud little, 22-year-old. And I got my many jobs because I just didn't know how to have one job. And I had a lot of back pain, and I had a lot of stress, and I had a lot of anxiety. A lot of that was coupled with the fact that I grew up in a home with a mom who had severe depression and severe undiagnosed bipolarity, and a lot of alcoholism tendencies in my family. So kind of just like Kelly was saying, a lot of stuff was swept under the rug, not talked about. So I just ended up having this belief system that what I do is equivalent to who and what I am. So my value equals my doing. And then as life went on, and then I got all the way into this work very unexpectedly and unintentionally, I started realizing how much every person that came into my private practice, to my workshops, to my retreats, to everything that I was doing, started telling me how much they were on these spin cycles of more, and then more, also more. And I learned very quickly that we needed to turn back the dial, sometimes 180 degrees, for people to learn that you are 100% value, 100% matter, and 100% worthy simply because you are. Because you breathe, because you live, because you're here. And that was a concept that took me a long time to learn, and now it's my mission in life to help others learn it as well.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Tori, you have said that creating tangible movement has brought your life purpose and stability. Can you tell us a little bit more about your nonprofit and the journey that led up to creating it?
Sure. It's a big, I'm going to condense it down, but thank you so much for shedding light on this. Yeah. This is exactly, the purpose of my movement is to help educate and inspire youth and young adults who are struggling with depression, addiction, sexual and gender identity issues, and abuse. What that looks like is I go around to schools and universities and actually medical conferences as well. I also was in Washington, I was a White House intern. No shit. Yep. Yep.
They're the best of friends.
I'll age myself now. I was under President Clinton. I'm kind of old. No way. Oh, okay. Well, look like that. So I guess I'll start from the beginning. I grew up in Orange County, California. Yeah, no. Yeah, I was like, yeah. The stigma was really real for me. My mother was undiagnosed had mental illness, undiagnosed. My father, his father was the head psychiatrist at Patton State Mental Hospital. So he grew up on a mental, yeah, exactly. So he thought he knew everything about mental health. And when I started showing symptoms, he's like, oh, no, none of my kids are crazy. And my mom wanted to take me to therapy, and so he told her I could go, but she had to pay cash and no insurance because he wanted no paper trail, period. And then doctors kept diagnosing me different diagnoses and all this and that. My dad's like, don't take that medication. That's not what you are. You're not a crazy person. And so the stigma was really real. He was also a severe racist and homophobe. So yay. Wonderful life in Orange County. And so subsequently, I was also a homophobe and a racist. And that's how I grew up. I didn't know any different. And so I was an internalized homophobe. And which eventually led to my first suicide attempt. Because I didn't see myself living on the planet. I was told I had to have a husband and a couple cars in the garage, 2 kids, couple dogs, and the only choice of career path I had to him was physician, engineer, or attorney, and anything else was not acceptable. So I was a really big disappointment to him in many, many areas. But I went through my life bouncing around from doctor to doctor and getting addicted to this drug and that drug. My entrepreneurial career started at 14. I was a drug dealer. And I did that all the way up through college and made some good money, but I also took a lot of it. So, but long story short, I wasn't able to stay sober for more than a year and a half. And I had a company, and it folded, like she said, after 2007, 2008 financial crisis happened. Then I got into the wellness field, and I was a personal trainer, training R&B artists, niched out in R&B artists, and I was traveling all over the Western world with them as their wellness coach. And I crashed and burned, and that was my second suicide attempt, and going into that later. But at that point, I realized, okay, I really need to do something. I put myself in treatment, got out of treatment, and I thought, okay, I got to get my mental health straight. And I still was not ready to come to the terms of acceptance of what they were diagnosing me as, which was bipolar. Because that word to me was like, oh my God, like, you stay away from me. Like, no. So finally I went to a doctor and about 5 years ago, and she diagnosed me bipolar type 2. And I didn't know that there was a difference. I had no idea. And I've seen doctors since I was 14 years old. I'm 41 now. So, I mean, throughout that entire process, no one had educated me on the different types of mental health conditions. And it clicked. I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is what's fitting. And I got on the right medications. I've been stable ever since. And I figured, you know what? I was at a point in my life at 33. I had made a ton of money. I had lost a ton of money. I had been homeless. I needed to do something with purpose. And so I started Tangible Movement, which was my way of giving back. And the reason why I started it was because I felt that there are other people out there struggling just like me with the stigma attached to their mental health, afraid to talk about it. And I wanted to have an open forum and be able to actually have conversations just like this. So that's the long and short of it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for being so vulnerable with your story and sharing it with us. Katie, in a previous conversation, you shared the following quote with me. There's a lot of poison in our culture, and girls either get sick or they get angry. These are really our only two options. I want to teach my girls to be activists so they can change the system instead of allowing the system to change them. Internalizing these poisons make us sick. Keeping our anger in makes us sick. Quotes by Glennon Doyle. Can you tell us how this quote reflects your own personal experiences and how that inspired you to create Want?
Yeah, Glennon Doyle, she's one of my absolute favorite authors, storytellers, and I remember when I first read that quote, I was like, oh, it's so simple and it makes so much sense, and it's so much of what I see within myself and my own journey and what I see in so many other people, whether it's through my work with Want or in the fitness realm. So I grew up with a lot of self-confidence, but the lens through which I viewed that self-confidence was really blurred and scratched. You know, it's sort of like if you're looking through sunglasses that have really been through the ringer and you can't even see through them anymore. So I couldn't see that confidence for what it was, which was a strength. So I grew up in a very loving household, very supportive family. I was multi-talented and multi-passionate, and I was praised a lot for what I was able to do. And I was artistic, and so I would make gifts for people, and that kind of like became my thing. Like I was the great gift giver. And I was praised for my looks, which all sounds wonderful and amazing, and it was. However, anytime that I would start to appreciate that for myself, I was told either very outright or, otherwise, that I was vain, I was conceited, I was full of myself, I just needed to get over myself. And so I internalized this idea that my talents and my looks and my intelligence, they were for everybody else, but they were not for me. And I couldn't take pride in them. I wanted to take pride in them, but if I were to take pride, then there was something bad. I had something that was wrong with me, something that I need to be sorry about. And so I became hyper disciplined, and I always got the perfect grades. I did not go into middle school with braces or glasses, so the taunt of choice was, oh, Katie's perfect, which it really hurt, which sounds so weird, but it created this pressure of like, you're the perfect one. You need to be perfect. And so what ended up happening is I went to college in Orange County for music. I did not work for the Clinton campaign, though. No. Yeah. Oh, well.
Get out of here, Katie.
But I went to college for musical theater, and anybody in here who has ever even dabbled in theater knows that, if you're in dance, you're looking at yourself all the time in the mirror, starting 8 a.m. or earlier to 7, 8 p.m. in rehearsals. It's all about how you look and how you can mold yourself to be typecast as a character and fit that look, fit that mold. So there was the musical theater aspect, and then there was also the college aspect. And I really did not feel like I fit in college. I had been so disciplined and so perfect my entire life that I didn't know what it meant to let go. I didn't know what it meant to have fun like a 17-year-old. I wanted to go to school, get my education, and be like a 47-year-old out in the world. And so I know. Now I'm like, really?
Like how everybody was like, haha.
Yeah, no, I mean, if I could go back to that 17-year-old self, I would be like, oh my gosh, 17, like I know that there's really shitty times. Yeah, oh my gosh, please don't wear a bra sometimes. I know, even with anyway, we're getting off track. Let's put a pin in this. So when I was in college, I basically felt like I had zero control over myself, over my environment, and I developed a eating disorder called orthorexia. And orthorexia is basically an unhealthy obsession with health. It is the discipline eating disorder, go figure. And so I thought that if I could just out-discipline everybody else, then I would win. Then I would be on top. Now, what else was going on in my life is there was a lot of undiagnosed mental issues, illnesses in my family, and they were never talked about. We were talking about this in the room earlier. It's like doctors ask you, what's your history, your medical history? And if it's not diagnosed, then there's no paper trail of it. And so if you say, well, this person struggled with depression, this person struggled with anxiety, this person struggled with OCD, if it's not diagnosed, then they're, at least back in the day, doctors don't take that seriously. And so any eating disorder is really a mental disorder. It's not about the food. And I was told that I was crazy. I was told that I needed to get over myself. And I remember going online and I Googled everything that was going on with me because I started to literally lose my voice. And my voice teacher in college came up to me and said, whatever's going on with you, you need to start to get it under control because your body can no longer support the weight of your voice, which you can take as a powerful metaphor. Because it was related to my career, I thought, okay, well, I really got to do something. So I typed in everything that was going on with me, all of my habits, all of the stuff that I was super ashamed of, and one website came up. And if you are a baby of the 80s and a child of the 90s, you know the sites GeoCities and angelfire.com. I think I might have asked Jeeves this, actually. And I came across one website that was made, I believe, on GeoCities, and it was about this disorder, orthorexia. It was the doctor who had coined the term, and I felt this wave of relief of, oh, that's what I have. And I see in the people around me why I want to control things. I see the hurt, I see the pain, and I just want to fix it. And if I'm perfect, and if I have something that someone else can be proud of, or I can give them a gift, then I can help fix that. And so this was not a disorder that was talked about at the time. Since then, I've done multiple different forms of therapy, traditional and very alternative. But at the time, I was like, I guess I kind of have to guinea pig on myself. So I became my own first test subject. And that is not what ultimately got me over the hump of the eating disorder, because we need help with those things. But while I was in this state of hyper self-awareness, what I realized is that the way that people bonded, the way that people talked to each other was incredibly negative. I call it casual negativity now. It's that negativity that we use as a bonding mechanism, as a connection. And it was really, really prevalent amongst women. I didn't see it a lot in the men in my life. I also saw how people would tear themselves down with almost zero emotion attached to it. And saying, oh, my thighs are so big. Ugh, my stomach. Oh, I'm just so dumb. Oh, I'm not smart enough for that. I'm not talented enough for that. And they would self-deprecate as a form of commiseration with people. So I'm realizing that all this is happening, and I'm like, okay, how do you go from that to actually being self-loving, or at least self-appreciative? And I remember it was 2007, and I saw a commercial. It was the first Dove Real Bodies commercial. So does anyone remember that, with the white underwear and the white tank tops, all different bodies, races, heights? I mean, this was revolutionary for the time. It was the first body positive campaign, and I remember seeing it and thinking, this is amazing. It's saying, love your body, love who you are, you're worth it. And then I thought, well, what about when I don't love my body? What about when I don't feel worthy? What about when I can't just look in a mirror and mantra away this deep sadness or pain that I'm feeling and that I'm internalizing from the world around me? And it came to me in like a boom, boom, boom moment. I thought, I'm going to create a platform that gives women tips, tools, motivation, and inspiration to shift their self-talk patterns. And it's going to be called WANT, and that's going to stand for Women Against Negative Talk. So I made t-shirts because that's what you do when you start a business. You make t-shirts, obviously. Multiple designs, male, female. I went all out. I created a logo for myself with my hand and the love symbol. I thought, oh, this is going to be real good. And it got some steam, and by steam I mean like family, friends, email lists said this is a great idea. And then I sort of let it fade into the background. And what I realize now is that I had created the thing that I so needed at the time. I needed the tips, the tools, the motivation, the inspiration to not stop my negative self-talk, but shift it and look at what that self-talk was actually trying to tell me. And so when it came back around to me after the therapy, after the work, I saw that there really was no place out there that was talking about self-talk holistically. And I also knew that I didn't have all the answers. And so I needed to involve other women. I needed to involve other people because we are all so unique. We all deal with things differently. And we all need a multitude of tools to choose what we put into our toolboxes.
Amen. Thank you, guys. I think if anybody is struggling with finding their purpose, I think if you look at these 4 women, it's so obvious that so many times people are like, oh, Pound. I'm like, I feel like it was this vehicle that just drove up and I got into it one day. And I feel like if you really listen to yourself and look at your life experiences, your purpose will come to you. And you guys have done that. And because of that, you're bringing things to the world that the world really needs. So thank you so much. Moving right along. Kelli, you have said in your work that, wrote this in caps for some reason, small details really matter. Can you tell us a little more about the importance of having a greater sense of personal awareness to the details that impact us on a daily basis, and how those little things can add up to very big things quickly?
Absolutely. I think that this is a really big part of the work that I do on a daily basis. So I work in a private practice, and it specializes in women, and so I get to see really awesome, amazing, talented women every single day. And what we really work on in almost every session is what we say to ourselves on a regular basis. And so the people come in and they talk about these big issues they want to work on. I want to work on self-esteem. I want to work on motivation. I want to work on being kinder. Big, huge issues. But when we boil it down and we really get in there to figure out, okay, well, what's going on? It really comes down to those small things that you say to yourself all the time that you don't even question. Those things that you send an email and it's got a misspelling and you're like, oh, that was so dumb of me. And then you go on with the rest of your day. But I actually will have women track it. I'll say, every time you say something negative, just mark a tally. Don't do anything else. Just mark a tally, because I want to raise your awareness of that inner narrative that's happening all day long, because that narrative is how you see yourself. So even though you think it's no big deal, and even though you think it's not, it's not making an impact, if you stack all of those small things up and you were to put them on a scale and see how many of those are negative, how many of those are positive, how many of those are in between, you'll get a picture of how you view yourself. And that view is going to impact all of your decisions, all of your behaviors, particularly when they're uncomfortable. The uncomfortable emotions, the uncomfortable decisions, the uncomfortable situations, that's when that inner negative self-talk finds a way to work itself out and has you doing all kinds of stuff that you're like, I didn't want to say that. I really woke up today and I said I was going to be nice, and I said I was going to be great to that coworker, and I was going to listen, and I was going to smile at that boring story, and here I am, right? But it's because it's these tiny things that we say all the time to ourselves, and that can be influenced by a lot of things. And one of those big things is media. Media plays a really big influence in what we say to ourselves, what we see portrayed out there as what's ideal, as what's best, as what's good versus bad. Those things we internalize. Our subconscious takes them in and files them away as fact. And they come up later on and impact us. And you wonder why you've got this down mood and you can't figure out why. Well, maybe 10 minutes ago you walked past a building and saw your reflection and thought, ooh, I don't like that. And it didn't register. You didn't think more about it. You didn't dwell on it. But in an hour, you're feeling down and you can't figure out why. So I really feel like it's these tiny details and being able to raise our awareness to what's coming in, to what we're allowing in and how it's impacting us, that really does make a big difference in how we function and in our ability to be that person that we want to be.
Amazing. So everybody, pay attention to yourselves, to your thoughts.
Absolutely.
Along the same lines, Kelsey, how we speak to ourselves and the words we use have a profound effect on how we feel, much like what just Kelly said. What are some of the words you find powerful, and how can we use them as a tool?
Oh, that's a good question. I think all of you know what your power word is. I don't know if anyone else can tell you what your vibration of empowered and of health and of well-being and joy looks like, feels like, lives like. I do a lot of different workshops and courses, and one of the things that people leave with is what I call a soul prescription card, because we go to the doctor and it's like you get a prescription, it's like, okay, I'm gonna do that. So let me get my ass to the pharmacy because I gotta get whatever the doctor said. But how often are you actually connecting on the deepest level to your ever-knowing soul that has way more wisdom than anybody else on this planet for you and about what you need and about where you are? So one practice that you guys can do is just in the morning, is just sitting up and taking a few deep breaths and taking a couple minutes. Even if you're super like anal about time and you don't think you have enough time and you're real controlling in that way, I get it because I've been there. Put a timer on for 3 minutes and just allow yourself to inhale for 3 and exhale for 3 to 5 counts. And then not thinking about anything. And then at the very end, the timer's gone off, you click off button, and then just ask yourself, what is my word today? What is the word I need to remember, that I need to live by, that I need to breathe with throughout today? And you'll get a word. And sometimes it'll be the same word. And sometimes it will shift, and you can really carry that with you. And I also just want to say, we talked about this in the back, and I really think it's important for everyone to also receive, is we talked about our ancestral and our, you could call it karmic, or the ancestral lineage. So it's scientifically shown that the DNA of our ancestors, the trauma that was embodied in our ancestors, does get passed down to us through lineage. So in every moment of every day, you can either consciously be choosing to move through that, or to not be aware and to keep going and keep doing like you've always done, even if it feels like shit. So my invitation to all of you tonight would be to really sit with yourself, or this week, or guys, we're about to end a whole fucking decade. Like, it's 2019. That means that 2020, which is a whole nother decade of your life, starts in 3 months. So it's time to like clean up some shit from the last decade. And you can do that over the next several weeks and really like start to look at your patterns, your unconscious belief systems, the ways that you just do in the world, and be like, does this serve me? Do I like this part of me? Do I like this part of my day? And just as Kelly was saying, this part of my belief system, this part of my programming, really get inquisitive with yourself. Get inquisitive every moment in every day. Even sitting on this couch tonight, I'm like, how do I feel sitting on a couch? It feels weird to have people look at you, you know, like regardless. If you're on the subway, if you're sitting on a couch with other humans, like it just feels weird. So even here, I'm observing myself. Like, what am I telling myself about me as I sit here in community with people? And I'm just watching, is my breathing shallow? Am I feeling anxious? How can I relax and open up into this experience in a way that feels really good, rather than self-criticizing or self-judging, you know? That's all.
No biggie. Thank you. Tori, I think all of us are familiar with the saying, see something, say something. But with mental health and addiction, it's easier said than done. With cultural stigmas, miseducation, and general unease, talking about mental health is hard, especially when we haven't been doing it for ever. And reaching out to a friend who might be suffering can feel even more overwhelming. Was there a moment in your life where someone reached out to you in regards to your mental health or addiction? And what advice would you give to us or to people who want to reach out but are too afraid?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Gosh, I had the opposite effect actually happen when I was in high school. This is when I was suicidal, and I had suicidal ideations like, just pop it. They are intrusive thoughts. I'm not sure if any of you have experienced them, but it just drive off a cliff, or, all these ideas just kind of float through your head all day long. At least for me, that's how my life was. And I was extremely suicidal. I'd written my note, and I called my friend. This is when I first started realizing I had feelings for women. And this girl, she was a friend of mine, but I also kind of had a crush on her. And so I gave her a ring, and I'm like, look, I just want you to know, I don't know what else to do. Like, you're the first person I'm telling this to. I think that I want to kill myself. And she's like, do whatever you need to do. Yep. And so that was not the right answer. If anybody asks you guys that, that's not the right answer, okay? I did subsequently attempt suicide after that phone call. It's not her fault at all. I was going to do it anyway, more than likely. I think the most important thing, honestly, is to just ask your friend or ask somebody, hey, how are you doing today? Like, are you okay? You seem a little down today. Do you want to talk about it? Or if you notice some behavior with friends, family, or lover, or whatever, giving their possessions away, right? Or talking about just weird things like not being around much longer, stuff like that. That is signs of suicidality. And it's okay to ask somebody, hey, are you feeling suicidal? I'm here for you. Asking somebody if they're feeling suicidal is not going to make them feel suicidal, okay? I think that's the biggest misconception. It actually will relieve that individual of the pain that they feel like they're going through it alone. And it's profound, just that one question. Are you okay? Is there what can I do for you? And I know you seem a little off, and you're giving away this, giving away that. Are you struggling with suicidality? Like, it's a question, and try saying it out loud just to yourself. Like, it's like it gets stuck in the back of your throat, right? Mm-hmm. Just trying to say it out loud. So I guess to answer that would be the answer to my question. Your question you asked was that. Just ask. Be observant. Don't assume. And the advice, leave that to doctors. The advice would be maybe you should see somebody, right? A professional. I'll go with you to your first appointment. I'll sit in the car and wait. You can be a friend that way. But sitting there, and no one wants to be told what to do and advice. But the biggest question, what can I do for you to help you? What can I do for you? How can I be of service? So that's that.
Thank you. That's incredible. I loved when we had a previous conversation, you said, don't give advice. Yeah. That's the one I'd never heard before, and really, really helpful to hear. Thank you. I think I lost my voice teaching. Don't worry about it. Katie, kind of along the same lines, we've talked a lot about the shame associated with mental illness and how our conversations and language might be helpful in changing the conversation and the language around it. Is there advice you would give? One of the things that we've talked about in the past is just asking, instead of saying, can I help you, saying, what's wrong? And that kind of insinuating that you're saying something's wrong with someone. How do we reshape even kind of the smaller comments and conversations that we have around it?
Yeah, so there's something that I know that you're familiar with, and I know that many of you are familiar with in fitness, called negative cueing. So negative cueing is basically telling people what to do by telling people what not to do. Don't raise your shoulders. Don't bend your knees. Don't turn your toes out. What's wrong is a form of negative cueing outside of the fitness realm, right? You're planting the seed of what you don't want the person to think about. Because if you say, don't turn your toes out, what are you thinking of? Turning your toes out. Don't have your shoulders by your ears. You're constantly like, are my shoulders by my ears? Are they by my ears? Are they by my ears? Don't look at the elephant in the room. Of course you're gonna go look at the elephant in the room. There's an elephant in the fucking room. So saying what's wrong is planting the seed that maybe there's something that should be wrong with someone else, that they're doing something wrong just by existing. My husband is a huge introvert, and his pet peeve is when people say to him when he's quiet, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong? And he really had to do a lot of work around his own self-talk and his own self-image to rewire and shift the narrative from there must be something wrong to I'm just feeling pensive. So saying things to other people, the language that we use outside of ourselves is the same language we use inside ourselves. Self-talk is not good or bad, it's information. It's the emotional lens that we put over it that makes that information impactful to us. But if you're going to retrain your self-talk, you also need to start to retrain the way that you talk on the outside as well. So simple things like giving people compliments, simple things like saying, are you okay? Instead of, what's wrong? I mean, if someone had said to you, what's wrong? What's wrong? What's wrong with you? Would you have known how to respond to that?
To go fuck themselves.
Yeah, right? So just using curiosity as the guide instead of naming the emotions. Like getting curious inside and getting curious outside, it seems so simple, but it can have such profound impact, fitness and otherwise.
Awesome, thank you. So we're gonna roll through 2 more rounds of questions a little bit quicker, but I wanna ask you guys all of them because you have such incredible nuggets of information to give. Kelli, in your work, you strive to increase your clients' awareness of the mind's power over the body and the body's unique ability to calibrate itself to the mind's needs, also known as mind-to-body connection. Can you talk more about how closely linked our thoughts and physical experiences are?
They are almost, it seems obvious, but your mind is in your body. So they are one. It lives here. So it's one. It's not.
Is that weird to hear?
Isn't that right? It
Isn't that
seems
weird?
like groundbreaking, but it's in here. Like, like, that's right, huh? But we are taught and we are raised to think of mental health's over here, physical health's over here. You can think whatever you want to think, and your heart's just going to keep on pumping, and you can do whatever you want to your body, and your brain's going to keep on thinking. But that's just not true. Our thoughts have the ability to immediately change how our body functions down to a cellular level. So when you get that new assignment at work, or you get told, oh, by the way, you got to do this presentation, and you immediately feel a stomach ache, like, oh, I'm sick. That is your thought. Your thoughts did that. They created the stomach ache. The stomach ache is real. The thought is real. It's a connection. The very same neurotransmitters that are in your brain that are important for mood, like serotonin and dopamine, are in your gut. They are in your stomach. They're produced in your stomach. And so this is connected. How you think impacts how your body functions. And likewise, what you do to your body impacts your mood. your activity level is going to impact your mood. Being more sedentary is going to impact your mood. And we were talking about this in the back, is the idea that there's so much benefit from physical movement that your mind gets, that your body gets. It's unbelievable how impactful and how important it is, but how easily it can be washed away by some of the environments that we do this physical activity in. So when you're doing physical activity in an environment where it's constantly about changing you and fixing you and that problem area and this before picture and that after picture, it creates such negativity that it cancels out all of the wonderful benefits of physical movement. So when you reached out to me and when I got to learn more about what is done in this company, it was amazing to me and so extremely important that it is more about how you feel than how your physical body on the outside looks, because that's what tells the story. Your body is more than just how it looks, it's how it moves, it's how it functions. And our thoughts play a big part in that, and our activity plays a big part.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that. When we talked, she said that, and I was like, why did my brain just blow up when she said, I mean, we talk all the time about how our minds and bodies are connected, and just the way that you said it, I was like, but it's kind of awesome. I like when my brain blows up. Kelsey, you introduced me to a really cool term that I did not know called energetic exercise. Can you expand on what that means and how it impacts us on a daily basis?
Yeah, so you can call it energetic exercise, you can call it fitness, energy fitness, you can call it your energetic hygiene. It's this idea that we know that you're gonna wake up in the morning and most likely, I mean, I didn't do it until 5 o'clock today because that was my mental well-being. You're gonna brush your teeth and wash your face in the morning. Again, I did it at 5 p.m. today. So, every day's a little different. But it's this idea that we have these constructs of like what is, acceptable and necessary to be a functioning being in society. And there's this hygiene and these things that we do, these activities that we do throughout our day that we don't question, right? But we do somehow question energy as if it's not as relevant or as much a part of our daily well-being. And so to me, energetic hygiene, energetic fitness is like cleaning up your energy before you go out in the day, perhaps during the middle of the day. I work with a lot of women who have adrenal fatigue, Hashimoto's, all these things that are very newly diagnosed, but it's because you're tapping your adrenals out because you're not refilling your energy throughout the day. So I think it's really helping people see and understand, like, hello, thanks Einstein, E equals MC squared. Like, we are composed of energy. So to believe somehow that you're going out in the world and you on an energetic being and an energy level are not being impacted is like bananas to me. But it wouldn't have been bananas to me 10 years ago before I started doing all this work and like coming to my knees to these practices. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, really quickly, you have 1 minute to kind of reset your energy during the day, whether you're in the office, running around, what would you do?
Breathe. Literally go to the toilet at wherever you are.
God, I do that at work.
Yeah, it's true. Like, go to the restroom. It's like the one place you can close the door and not be seen.
What? I do. I Instagram on the toilet, and also I breathe on the toilet, Lauren.
There. So she's doing it, but maybe I would say for Kirsten, she's got to put her phone not with her.
Yes.
But really, it's just an exercise. And when you breathe, see your body filling up with source, with energy, with God, with whatever your word is, with nature, with air. See your body filling up, and then as you exhale, open your mouth, exhale, and let everything that you don't need to carry, everything that you don't need to take with you into the next moment of your day, let it out, release it, let go of it. It's like you brush your teeth to clean, to release the muck and the gunk or whatever, and you got to do that with your energy. You have to. It's just not a choice anymore. Sorry.
Listen to her. Tori, in the fitness industry, we so often view exercise in a positive light, but what we don't talk about is the extreme use of or addiction to exercise. With 8% of gym goers in the United States suffering from exercise addiction, I believe strongly that this has to be a part of the conversation as well, which is why at Pound we focus on the fun of fitness. How in your own journey have you found a healthy balance in your life?
That's a really, really good question. I didn't realize it until hindsight that the reason why I got into fitness at the first place was because I had an eating disorder. Fitness was not fun for me. It was something that I had to do. You know, if I ate, then I needed to work out 6 hours that day or whatever it was. And I'd work out with my clients, which is extremely inappropriate. But I would do it because I needed to get my exercise in. And of course, I forget who said it, but you're standing in front of a mirror all day long, looking at ourselves, you know? And I got to a point where what my life looked like was binge restrict and exercise bulimia. So I would, binge 4,000 or 5,000 calories a couple days and then work out the next couple days for like 4 to 6 hours, like intense, like crazy intense exercise, right? Like killing myself. And I was miserable, absolutely miserable. And then during the binging part of it, I would be sitting in my car binging while my client was warming up on the treadmill. So the feelings that I had within myself at that time was fraud. I'm a fraud. I'm a fraud. I didn't know how to get out of this circle. I was in this thing. Anyways, what I realized is that, I should also say I'm not a homophobe anymore. Okay, and I'm not a racist either. Okay, just in case that was lingering. Okay. My dad would be really upset right now. I'm dating a Mexican, so he's lesbian, dating a Mexican. He got really fucked, So, yeah, there you go, Dad. That's what you get. So, however was I? But I realized I had bounced around. Whenever I'd get sober, my eating disorder would raise this ugly head. And I was in the fitness business, so I didn't even know what exercise bulimia was. It wasn't until another trainer saw me working out at 3 different gyms that day. And she's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "What business is of yours?" And she's like, "You have exercise bulimia." I'm like, "That's not even a word." I'm like, and I told her to go fuck herself. But it stuck in my head. I was like, what is this exercise bulimia thing, And I looked into it, and I'm like, oh my God, I really do have this. And then, of course, there was a downward spiral, and I went to treatment. The last time I was in treatment was in 2010. It was for my eating disorder, for severe depressive episodes, alcoholism, and drug addiction. So I was detoxing in an eating disorder clinic, which was horrendous. It actually kept me sober and kept me from relapsing. A number of times I thought about how horrible that experience was for me. So how do I balance that, and how did I balance it when I came out of there? Like, all I knew is how to exercise 6 hours a day or binge and restrict. I had to learn how to eat intuitively and, not eat my feelings. That was really hard. It was a learned behavior, and I needed to go to a nutritionist and a therapist. I had a full treatment team. The eating disorder part of it for me and the exercise bulimia was harder for me than the alcoholism and the drug addiction, because you have to eat, you have to eat. So I had a accountability partner, and they would check in. I was allowed to work out 3 days a week, and it was just like, I don't know what to do. I had to only work out for 45 minutes. So I set a timer, and I'd check in with the person before I worked out and after at 45 minutes, and then they would be on the phone with me until I left the gym. That's what I needed to do in order to overcome this for years, actually. It took me a couple of years, really, to get through this process. So what does my exercise look like now? So I used to run marathons as well, but I did it in a healthy way. And running for me is very therapeutic. It's my meditative state. And I don't do it punishing. It's not a punishing thing for me. I used to lift weights like 6 days a week and then run 5 days a week, and that was like a normal routine for me for years and years and years. And I just finally hit a point where I'm like, I'm 40, I'm fucking over this. Okay? Like, I don't want to go work my chest today. I don't want to fucking squat. You know, I just don't. Like, so I'm not going to do it. You know? So I decided, I took a little break from the gym and I really reduced my mileage. So I run 3 miles, like 3 or 4 times a week rather than 5 miles 5 times a week and then 10 miles on the weekend. And I am happier now because I wouldn't say it's control over it. It just suits my lifestyle, you know, and I've come to acceptance about who I am and where I need to be careful, what areas I need to be careful of. And every morning when I run down by the beach and I say 10 things I'm grateful for. And it's usually little things, like, because I was homeless at one time. So it's like, you know, I'm grateful for my car. I'm grateful for my apartment, my dog. I'm grateful I have money in the bank. I'm grateful I have breakfast this morning. Just those little things, for me, makes it so much more difficult for me to have a bad day going forward. So for me, exercise is mental. I do it for my mental state, not necessarily my physical state. My girlfriend thinks I look great, so, you know, that's good, you know. But yeah, it was a long journey and a long process, and a lot of help. I needed a therapist, I needed a psychiatrist, I needed a really strong support system with my friends. I couldn't count on my family for that, but yeah, it was a long process, but I'm finally here, so that's a good point. Yep.
Thank you. It sounds like you really were able to change the experience for yourself. Running, instead of to do a marathon, you're running to a place where you can say 10 things you're grateful about and be in front of an ocean, and something about that is helping you find more stability in it, which is awesome.
Well, yeah, and one other thing I want to add too is I was deathly afraid of opening my mail. And I had bags and bags full of mail when I would just go in these depressive episodes, and I could not open my mail. Like, it was terrifying for me. So that's kind of why I started running marathons. Okay? I was like, okay, if I can run a marathon, then I can open my fucking mail. Okay? So I would be on my long run, like my 13-mile run or whatever it was, you know. I'm like, okay, you're opening one piece of fucking mail when you get back home. Okay, just one. You're doing it. Okay. And I get back home, I look at the mail, and I look in there, I'm like, oh, no, I can't. And I couldn't do it. And I needed an accountability partner for that. I needed to go to a 12-step program, actually, for that. So, yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you. Katie, you have taught group fitness for, I think, over a decade, at least a decade?
12 years.
12 years. Can you talk more about the concept of fitting in versus belonging and how it pertains to movement and group fitness?
Yeah, so anyone here know who Brene Brown is? Yeah.
Just kidding. I'm kidding.
No, but you know, I don't want to assume because my dad says that makes an ass out of you and me. So, no, I love High Priestess Brene. She wrote a fantastic book. I believe it was last year, called Braving the Wilderness. And in that book, she really dives into the concept of belonging and belonging versus fitting in. And High Priestess Brene says fitting in is actually the opposite of belonging. Fitting in fitting in requires you to change who you are. Belonging requires you to be who you are. And when it comes to fitness, I mean, gosh, I feel like with the rise, and it's continuing to rise and rise and rise and morph every single day of social media, this feeling of, do I fit in this landscape? Especially for people who do it in a professional way. I mean, we're talking a lot about this conversation that we had beforehand. So we're letting you in. We were talking beforehand about how, you know, it's hard being in an industry that has such a specific view of what you should look like. And even if you fit 3 out of the 5 boxes, you're still made to believe that you're not good enough. Your muscles aren't ripped enough. Your skin isn't clear enough. That's a big one that people don't talk about in fitness, is that we see all of these airbrushed photos. When I wore makeup to teach my classes, my skin was the worst it had been my entire life, but I wore that makeup while I was teaching these cardio classes where we were all sweating just by being in the room, and my skin was crying for help because I so felt like, well, in the fitness industry, people look perfect. There's that word again. People have the clear skin. They have these measurements in their body. And so we're constantly trying to go after this sense of fitting in. Belonging in our mind means that we look, sound, and act like everybody else in the pact. What I believe and what I think is so incredible about Pound, and has been incredible about Pound since day one, because I've seen this grow since pretty much day one, is that fitness is for everybody and everybody. Everybody and everybody. You know, like these three incredible women were already saying, moving your body doesn't need to look a certain way. It doesn't need to be a certain time. It doesn't have to be trendy. It doesn't have to exist on Instagram in like I love a sweaty selfie. We do a lot of those on Aptive, but it doesn't have to have a sweaty selfie after. Your movement is for you. And I personally came to fitness while I was in my eating disorder, started to take group fitness classes. I came to group fitness because I knew I had this hypersensitivity and hyper-awareness, and I committed that I was going to use that for my good, to help me and not hurt me, because I used it to hurt myself for so long. And I went into a group fitness class where there were no numbers in front of me. I don't think there was even a clock in the room. It was all just about being around a ton of people and feeling a sense of community. And I remember going in, and I don't think the workout had even really begun yet, and I felt, oh my gosh, I belong. I belong here. And it wasn't because I looked like a certain person or I did a certain thing. It was that I felt at home in who I was and where I was. And it wasn't about what I was doing. It wasn't about what I looked like. It was about who I was in my core and what I could bring to that experience. And so fitness, it's so much more, like we've all discussed, than what you're doing with your body. It's so much more than the reps that you do, the lunges that you take, the amount that you sweat or you don't sweat. It is literally a coming home to yourself. And it's an unraveling all of these tangled webs that are inside of you to belong within yourself. Because if you belong to you, you also belong everywhere and nowhere at the same time. And that's something that we get to practice in fitness.
Yes. Preach. I love that. Okay, rapid fire tangible. I got you.
Okay.
No, a very quick last round of questions, things that we can take away and use immediately in our lives. So, Kelli, if you could ask our listeners, because this is going to our entire community, to do one thing for themselves or others, what would it be?
Get to know yourself, and not the person that you want to be or the goals that you have for yourself or that future person, but the person that you are right this second. What are your fears? What are the things that make you joyful? What are the things that excite you? What are the things that make you passionate and give you energy? Get to know yourself today, because that person is what's going to help yourself be that future thing that you're hoping for, and it's going to allow you to touch the people that are around you. Having a better understanding of who you are right this second, flaws, strengths, whatever you want to call it, all those pieces is so powerful and will impact both yourself and the closest people around you.
Amazing, thank you. Tori, sorry girl, I skipped you. Coming back. Your company's hashtag is End the Stigma. What is one thing that we can do to do that?
This. You guys are doing it, basically, and you're doing it. Thank you so much for putting this together.
Of course, thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you guys for giving your time this evening It's late on a Thursday night.
And I have to say to everybody here, I've never seen this class in action, and I was so impressed. You all kill it out there. Oh my God. So that shit rocks. That's awesome. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Katie, as a fellow fitness professional, what's one thing we can do to start to shift our communication and leadership to make mental health a part of mainstream wellness conversation?
So good. I already mentioned the negative cueing, doing positive cueing instead of negative cueing, so I'm going to give an alternate answer to that because that is huge. Asking questions. Let people have their own ahas. It's wonderful to want to be a leader and a mentor in your own communities, but we also don't want to create a cycle of codependence. We want people to be able to take all of that unraveling that they do when they are with us and actually live that out in the world. And asking questions within your classes, within your communities, asking it within your communities outside of fitness. People just don't ask enough deep questions. Kelsey, you're really good at asking like really, really deep questions. No, really, really good. Listen to our podcast, everybody. Asking questions, getting curious will, I believe, save the world. And it is such an important part of that journey of coming home to ourselves. And we are so lucky as fitness professionals to reach people when they are in a very vulnerable state. Because fitness gets you vulnerable. It gets you in your body. It gets you moving things you weren't moving before. And when people are in that vulnerable state, they're really open to things that they might not have been open to before. And so being mindful of how we help navigate people through that space, hold their hands and then let them go off into the world is one of the most powerful things that we can do.
I love that. Thank you. So you guys, we're going to end this evening with a 5-minute, I said I was going to say this wrong, energy clearing. Energy cleansing.
Yes.
Led by Kelsey. So how do we get comfortable?
Yeah, well, these girls
guys
look
are. I'm gonna
real
get comfortable
comfy.
Just me.
You guys get comfy. I'll get off the couch so you can sit up with your legs up. Yeah, so let me just get a tempo of the room, because like I can do what I think, but that doesn't matter. It's actually what you need. So what you need is what I'm here to provide in this practice. So how many of you feel tired right now? Raise your hand. Okay, how many of you feel anxious right now? Raise your hand. Okay, how many of you feel a little bit overwhelmed and have had a lot of emotions in the last 2 weeks? Raise your hand. Cool, that's what I thought. So usually the tempo is, yeah. How many of you feel really joyful right now? Great. And one more time, how many of you feel a little bit tired right now? Okay, cool. All right. When you guys are ready, you can find whatever works for you. This is not anything, there's no right or wrong. In practice, there's no right or wrong way to sit. There's no right or wrong way to breathe. If you can breathe, you can meditate. And you're all clearly doing that fine. So when you're ready, find a nice comfy position. And we're just going to, again, you guys, this is going to be about 4 minutes. So just find a nice comfy position. And then when you're ready, just move your hips a little bit. So you guys have been sitting, so it's good to just kind of feel the body. And then maybe start to rub your hands on your thighs, just feel and connect to your physical body. And if any of you feel a little bit imbalanced, just intuitively I feel to share this practice with you guys, you're going to take your right hand and place it underneath your left armpit with your left thumb out. And you can just try this and see if it works. It's a great morning practice. Now do that with the opposite hand. So left hand underneath the right, with the thumb out. Great. Perfect. And now you can relax your shoulders, relax your elbows, relax your forehead, your eyes, your ears, your jaw. And now we're going to inhale for 3 counts through the belly. Open your mouth, big exhale. Again, don't rush your breath. Inhale for 3. Fill up your belly. 2. Relax your shoulders. 3. Now a big, soft, open mouth exhale, no rushing. Do that 2 more times. And as you do this, I'm just going to share with you When we wrap our bodies in this way, you're actually closing off the external outward energy and you're bringing everything back inside. And the idea is this is a beautiful balancing for both the left and right side hemispheres of your body. So from that visualization, I want you to allow your inhale now from your root, from your pelvis, all the way up through your spine, through the crown of your head. And then as you softly, slowly exhale, let your body, like an hourglass, just redistribute energy to both sides of the body. Inhaling to fill up and receive. And a gentle, loving, slow exhale to balance, to clear, to align. Feel your body wrapped in your own arms. Allow your palms touching the sides of your body to just relax, knowing that you are enough, that this is enough, that all you seek and need is happening, and it can happen with less effort, less doing, and more being. And see if you can relax your shoulders, your hips, your toes, the back of the neck. Release the muscles of the tongue and the jaw. Just soften into space. Take a moment to trust yourself, your body, your mind, your being. Keeping your eyes gently closed. Take a nice deep inhale from the root all the way up through the head. Soft open mouth exhale. Again, inhale, fill up. Hold the breath for a moment at the top. Sip in a little more air through the belly. As you exhale, keep your eyes closed, release your hands to your lap. And we'll just take a few breaths here, settling in, allowing and integrating any shifts. Palms down to ground, palms up to the sky to receive. And just feel, notice, allow. Right here in this moment, let your heart share a word, just one word. Whatever comes right away, that's it. And then breathe it into every cell, muscle, bone, fiber, organ of your body. Let your brain receive this word and its vibration too. Take a conscious inhale, conscious exhale. Inhale, tuck the chin to the chest. Exhale, gently open your eyes to your own body. And just rub the body to come back. And have a rad night.
Thank you. So you guys, I just want to close this amazing panel with another Glennon Doyle quote. People who need help sometimes look a lot like people who don't need help. Something to remember. Before we end this evening, can every member of Pound HQ please stand up? I just want to give a round of applause for you guys. I would be nothing at Pound without all of you, and thank you guys for everything you've done to put on this event. Thank you. Kelly, Kelsey, Tori, Katie, thank you guys so much for spending your time and energy with us tonight. This conversation was helpful in so many ways. I hope you guys take home some amazing nuggets that we can use immediately in our lives, whether it's self-work or how we treat others or how we talk to others. So let's give it up for you guys. Feel free to hang out for a bit. We still have gifts, gift bags. Alexis is serving drinks. Alex is serving drinks. I have Pound a Brain. Thank you guys so much for coming out.